Hey everybody, Joe Joseph here for thedailysheeple.com, and this is your news shot. Let's go to the Aussie news.com, news.com.au, where we find an aspiring space station and space nation called Asgardia wants to launch its first data-filled satellite later this year. That's right, the space nation of Asgardia is an unbelievably ambitious project, and it seems to be going forward. Yeah, I've talked about this over on my radio broadcast at truthfrequencyradio.com, and I got to tell you, this is like one of those weird things. It's eerily similar to the movie Elysium, at least based on what I'm seeing here. Only this would be open to anybody, they say, that wants to go. Listen to this. An ambitious, self-proclaimed space nation founded by a Russian billionaire and backed by a consortium of scientists is set to take its first steps into the cosmos later this year. The Public Collective, which aims to become a space-bound private country, calls itself Asgardia and was first announced in October by its founder and chief financial backer, Igor Asgardia, who believes the floating nation can, quote, offer an independent platform free from the constraint of land-based countries' laws. Huzzah! The idea behind the project is to prompt a discussion about the regulations and laws that underpin space activity and create a demilitarized and free accessible base of scientific knowledge permanently in orbit. In the long term, it has much bolder and somewhat interesting plans to create a shield to protect the Earth from cosmic threats such as asteroids, solar flares, and space debris. But in the meantime, Asgardia wants to send its first tiny satellite into space to test the concept of long-term data storage in orbit around the Earth. So according to a recent filing with the U.S. Federal Communications Commission, which was first reported by Motherboard, Asgardia's initial step will be the launch of its first satellite this year. The organization is set to reveal details about this launch at a press event in Hong Kong on June 13th, but the filing says the very, very small nanosatellite will piggyback to the International Space Station on a resupply flight scheduled for September. So what it consists of is a solid-state hard drive device, basically. And the drive is loaded on the ground with data, and the data is updated once in orbit, and a file is returned that verifies the successful data transmission. So in order to test the technology, the group's going to have two particle detectors on this thing mounted externally and internally. And they say from this data, they can map the solar flux and determine the radiation dosing that the internal electronics will receive. Now, you would think that NASA and the International Space Station would be able to do all this kind of stuff. But apparently, you got to fly solo if you want to actually make any headway. Government doesn't exactly do a lot of good things. As a matter of fact, what they end up doing is kind of running things into the ground. So far, an amazing 180,000 Earth-dwelling humans have signed up to become a citizen of the ambitious nation by simply filling out a basic online form. And they can't really go full throttle into this because they have a number of issues that they have to deal with. One of them, and it's a very important one, is how they simulate gravity and do so in a manner where you're not going to have people puking all over the place. That's always good. That's step one. Because that's the last thing you need is a space station full of puke and nowhere to go. So that's not good. But the founder says, he wants to provide funding for the project, but hopes to crowdfund future missions with contributions from those who signed up. Because, you got billions of dollars, so I guess you kind of need some help with that. And if you think the project sounds a little crazy, you're not alone. There's still a lot of questions that remain unanswered about the goals of the mission. But you know what? We don't get anywhere by kind of sitting on our hands. It's really those that have the visions and start to implement them that really take humanity to the next level. And there are some times when we do good things. There's sometimes when we do catastrophic things. You know, this isn't exactly, I don't know. If you ask me, I like the idea only because we've hit a point on this planet where you have to ask yourself, and I ask myself quite often, if I want to expatriate from the United States, where do I go? If I want to live a life of minimal government interference, to be able to live my life and my family to live their life the way that they want to live, where do you go to do that? And you'll find that it's very hard to answer because there's really no place left to go on Earth unless you're some sort of billionaire that can buy your own private island. And unfortunately, many of you, including myself out there, just don't have it like that. And Asgardia, even though it's probably many, many years away before anything like this comes to fruition, is a way for people to have an end point, a light at the end of the tunnel, you know, something to shoot for. And because here on Earth, we just don't have it like that. Not anymore. You know, maybe 100 years ago, but not today. And unfortunately, humanity has to resort to leaving the planet to get any sort of freedom. You have to basically imprison yourself in a spaceship in order to be free, which is kind of hard to understand. But hey, so Asgardia, check them out. Who knows? Maybe you can be an Asgardian too. I'm Joe Joseph. This was thedailysheeple.com's News Shot. Feel free to comment below and visit our website at thedailysheeple.com. Have a great day, everybody.